Welcome to the June 12th City Council meeting. And on this day, we are actually honoring Flag Day in this meeting. So we're going to start a little bit more formally today. Flag Day, for those of you who may or may not remember from your elementary school civics, commemorates the adoption of the United States flag, which happened on June 14th, 1777. And it has been a proud symbol of our people and of our nation and the values on which we stand ever since. And this is a day in which we pay tribute to our flag. And here tonight, to lead the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, we have Colin Walsh. Colin has been a cadet with the Eugene Police Department for 3.5 years. He has wanted to be a police officer his whole life, and he is active. He's been working hard at it. He's interested in anything in the out of doors. Currently works at Marathon Coach, but cannot wait to begin his career in law enforcement. So, Colin, please come forward and get us started. If you'd all please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you all very much for that. And now we are ready to open the public forum. The public forum is an opportunity for individuals to speak to the City Council on any city-related issues except for those items which have already been heard by a hearings official or are on tonight's agenda as a public hearing. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak. When you come to the podium, please give your name, city of residence, and for Eugene residents, your ward if known. The timer and lights indicate the time you have to speak. The red light indicates the end of 3 minutes. And our first speaker is Scott Landfield, followed by the Raging Grannies.
Scott Landfield, Eugene. I'm in Betty's ward, and I'm here to speak to the buffer zone. I have here 450 signatures for a starter on a signing statement. You can be any age. We've got 7-year-olds who are signing this. It says, "We, the undersigned, respectfully request the Eugene City Council immediately enact a 1,000-foot buffer zone between all new marijuana dispensaries and any already established." Back in April, when you folks voted to table the discussion, there were 32 dispensaries. At the moment, 2 months later, there are 58. Rent for all of my workers is skyrocketing at this point. A lot of commercial people throughout South Eugene are talking about the rents going up, small business 50 to 100%. I can't find a person in favor of letting it be free who comes through the bookstore. Medford, Corvallis, and Eugene are the only 3 towns in Oregon without a buffer zone. Why is that? The state's default is a buffer zone. At present, upon appeal, a dispensary in Eugene can be 501 feet from a school. Is that what we want to show all the people who come to the 2020 Olympics? Is that what we want our little kids to know, that there's a marijuana dispensary on every corner? Former City Councilor David Kelly declared at a council forum recently that dispensaries are no different from restaurants and bookstores. Betty, you're talking about George. Well, the OLCC doesn't regulate bookstores and restaurants. You know, this is a drug. It's illegal federally. Bookstores and grocery stores are not illegal federally. It's okay to have a grocery store, 4 grocery stores on a corner across from a school. There needs to be a little bit of an example in this town. I hope the city council can take it seriously because it doesn't look good. There are 7 liquor stores, 58 marijuana dispensaries, and I don't want to go into the illegal activities that a lot of these people are being forced into just to make a living now that they're trying to choke each other out. Might be fun to look at in a free market thing, but when your rent goes up, when your rent doubles and you get removed from your business, they don't drop the rent back down. You know, the next person that comes in, you're not giving the local people and the small people an opportunity. I look forward to bringing several thousand signatures in next month, and thank you, Mr. Clark, and the whole council for that 5-2 vote.
Thank you. Next, the Raging Grannies, followed by David Porter.
Is the mic going to be able to pick us up?
I'm closer.
Closer to the mic.
Back up.
My name is Margaret Berriger. I'm in Claire Surratt's district and or ward, and I'd like to say that the Eugene Raging Grannies urge the City Council to schedule a work session to plan how to move forward on the issue of divestment from U.S. banks.
Move all your money out of the big banks today. Vote with your money, 'cause that's the American way. We'll show the bankers that we don't need them anymore. We're going to our credit union, where our money will earn more. Bank of America, Chase Bank and Citigroup too. Take millions in profits and don't give a fig about you. They don't pay taxes, not even 1 single cent. They have no problem taking bailouts from the 99%. Say no to bankers who suffer from terminal greed. Move all your money. Let's help the poor folks in need. The big banks have failed us, though they say they're too big to fail. Now's the time to move our money and put bad bankers all in jail.
Investment! The best!
Still got a minute. What's your encore?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
The shuffle off.
And next is David Porter, followed by Eric Richardson.
Hi there. My name is David Porter, and I'm from Eugene, and I also own a business in Eugene. I run my business out of my motorhome, and I've been getting a lot of harassment from the police wanting to tow my vehicle for all kinds of weird reasons. Like they say if I work at night, they'll tow me. If I run a mobile business out of the motorhome, which you don't bring your house to me, you know, it's a mobile business. If I park a bicycle next to my motorhome, they say it looks like you're camping. Well, I'm not. They got my business name on the side of the vehicle. They just keep coming at me. They got all these, everything that's in red on here. They say I can't be in these areas or I'll get towed and possibly go to jail. And I really want it to stop.
Thank you.
You can keep that. So you know where.
Thank you. Eric Richardson, followed by Lisa Arkin.
Thank you. My name's Eric Richardson. I believe it's district. I'm in Greg Evans' ward. I'm happy to be here today representing the Eugene Springfield NAACP, as well as the 3 other NAACP chapters in Oregon. They belong to Corvallis, Salem, and Portland. We just had a successful lobby day in the state capitol today where we talked about the budget, state capitol, and supporting education, supporting the common men and women here in Eugene and in the state of Oregon, wanting to make sure that our needs were being met. We also talked about the grand jury recording. We talked about ethnic studies. We also talked about the need to have data around ending profiling in the state. And so it was a very successful day. But the main thing I wanted to talk about today is the release of the 2017 Just Energy Policies, Reducing Pollution and Creating Jobs. It's a report for the state of Oregon from the National NAACP that we have helped roll out. We gave this to the governor today, and we gave it to all 90 of our representatives and senators at the state capitol. We also have a plan to deliver this to many of the bigger cities in the state of Oregon. And the reason why is that we want to show that the NAACP is committed to the idea that we need to address climate change, and that with the new clean energy policies that we're going to be embracing going forward, we want to make sure that poor folks and people of color benefit from the jobs that will be created and from the opportunities that are there now. This also illuminates some of the policies the state of Oregon has for people to get involved with energy efficiency, knowing what kind of policies are out there that they can take advantage of as well. We think that we all need to get behind this, and this is the first effort of the NAACP to get communities of color really up to speed on the EJ movement. And so we are partnering with 350 Eugene, 350 PDX, Sierra Club, and Beyond Toxics. So I would like to give one copy to each of you tonight, and just hope that you will be able to take in this information and use it appropriately. So, thank
you very much.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right.
That's just great.
And if I can get more, I think I need one more.
Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you. And next up and final and last is Lisa Arkin.
Good evening, councilors and mayor. For the record, Lisa Arkin, and I'm in Ward 1. And I want to honor and thank Eric Richardson and the Lane County NAACP for their really astounding leadership on environmental policy and energy justice. And point out that it was a wonderful day in the Capitol talking about environmental justice, and to have the ability to partner on this report is phenomenal. But my main task here tonight is to tie this really well-written report by the NAACP with a subject that you heard about in your work session today, which is the Envision Eugene Clear Lake Overlay and UGB extension. I want to thank Mayor Piercy and Robin Hostica from the Eugene Planning Department for working with Beyond Toxics for almost 2 years now, along with the wonderful city planner staff, to come up with language for a UGB extension that takes into account environmental justice and clean energy policies, and improving our ability to protect vulnerable neighborhoods in West and North Eugene. So in the code that you heard about today, I just want to point out and actually read from its purpose to highlight that this proposed language for land use is going to become a model for land use policy, I believe, in this state. Eugene and Lane County will be the first to adopt a land use policy that reads as follows: will provide a means to ensure future development fulfills the community's desired outcomes for economic prosperity and increased employment opportunities while addressing environmental justice concerns. The Clear Lake Overlay implements supporting comprehensive plan policies that call for fairness and equity in achieving a healthy environment, vibrant community, and improved quality of life for our surrounding neighborhoods. And lastly, Clear Lake is encouraged to build upon Eugene's competitive advantages and recognize the community's values around climate change, sustainability, local food systems, and natural resources. So if there ever was an action you can take that goes hand in hand with this wonderful report about environmental justice and energy policies, this would be it right here. And I'm looking forward to a time when Eugene promotes climate justice and environmental justice in all of its policies. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And that closes the public forum. Councilors Zelenka, any other councilors in line to make comments? Councilor Zelenka.
Eric, thanks for this. Where did Eric go? This is a great report. I haven't read it thoroughly, but having worked in the energy efficiency and renewables industry for the last 30 years, one of the little known facts, but one is that per dollar invested, from $1 million invested, it's about 3 times as many jobs than fossil fuel investments for renewables and energy efficiency, and those jobs are living wage jobs, and those jobs are readily available to all sorts of folks on an equal basis. I was just in a conference in California, and President of the Senate, Kevin DeLeon, was talking about climate change, and one of the things that he noted was that there were more people in California's clean tech industry working on efficiency and renewables, 10 times as many people in California alone than work in the entire coal industry. And there are over 3 million people currently working in the clean tech industry, and that number should go up. And it's not only because it makes sense from an economic standpoint, but also the price differential of those resources. Energy efficiency renewables are the resources that are the cheapest. And all the ancillary benefits of creating more jobs, less pollution, and helping solve climate change are added benefits. So thank you.
Any other comments? I just want to thank everyone for coming. Thank you for your testimony. Thank you very much for delivering this and Lisa making the connection between what we're about to decide and this document was very helpful. Thanks always to the Raging Grannies for coming and enlightening us and livening up the conversation, and thank you to the gentleman who came to talk about his struggles with managing his business. I don't have the answer there, but I'm interested to explore what the issue is. So thank you. I think that closes this process, and we're ready for consent calendar.
I move to approve the items on the consent calendar.
Second.
Any discussion, changes? Okay. All in favor of approving consent calendar? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It passes. Okay, on to the next piece. Appointments to boards, committees, and commissions. So
I'll just give a little preamble, let folks know what has happened. We had an application process for several months, closed on March 31st. The applicants were then reviewed by the council, and we voted to interview folks, and from the interview group, we voted on the appointments. So we had record number of people apply. I think it was over 150 people applied, and we had to read every single one of those, which is a great thing. Believe me. What we're doing tonight is, after those interviews, we each cast a ballot to make these appointments. So the appointments that I'm putting forward are the based on those ballots and the people that got majorities. So and there's a script in front of. Does everybody have the script? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So. We'll start off with the Budget Committee. I move to appoint Joshua Scove to the Budget Committee for a 3-year term beginning July 1, 2017 and ending June 30th, 2020.
Second.
all in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, he's on.
I move to appoint Emily Fiocco to the Budget Committee for a 3-year term beginning July 1, 2017 and ending on June 30th, 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Mayor, excuse.
Oh, sorry. What? Am I missing something?
Yeah,
Oh, you wanted to talk to this?
yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor.
Go for it.
I move to substitute for Benjamin Clark.
Okay, so you need a second for that?
I'll second it.
All right. Okay, so now we're voting on the second.
You are either voting, or if people want to discuss, they can first discuss.
Right, okay, so why don't we, or is there discussion around the substituted motion, substituted candidate? No? Okay, so now we can vote on the substituted, we'll vote on the substitution first. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that goes down. So then we can go back to the original candidate, correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right. All in favor of Emily Fiocco? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all 7. Okay, so she's in. Thank you. Okay.
I move to appoint Eliza Kaczynski to the Budget Committee for a 3-year term beginning July 1, 2017 and ending on June 30th, 2020.
Second.
Okay, is there discussion? Counselor Semple and then Counselor Clark.
Move to replace with Benjamin Clark.
Second.
Okay, is there discussion about that?
I will this time.
Okay. Counselor Clark?
I just wanted to say that after, well, actually, everybody knows, having done this work and studied everybody else, I don't need to make too much discussion because people know where they sit on this.
Okay, so we're voting on the substitution again of Benjamin Clark. All in favor? 1, 2, opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so he doesn't succeed. So now we're back to Eliza Kaczynski. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and opposed? 1. Okay, so Eliza takes it. Thank you. All right.
Moving on to the Civilian Review Board. I move to reappoint Maurice Denner to the Civilian Review Board for a 3-year term beginning July 1, 2017 and ending on June 30th, 2020.
Second.
Any discussion on this? All in favor of Maurice Denner? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, he takes it. All right.
I move to appoint James Hargreaves to the Civilian Review Board for a 3-year term beginning July 1, 2017 and ending on June 30th, 2020.
Second.
Any discussion on this? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Got it. Okay.
One more for Civilian Review Board. I move to appoint Carolyn Williams to the Civilian Review Board for a 3-year term beginning July 1, 2017 and ending on June 30th, 2020.
Second. Sorry. I'll sleep for a second.
Any discussion on this one? Okay, all in favor? 2, 3, 4, 5. 7 in favor. Okay, so Carolyn.
Moving on the Historic Review Board. I move to appoint Samantha Kalita to the Historic Review Board for an unexpired term beginning on June 30th, 2017.
Second.
Any discussion on this? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay.
I move to appoint Luke Aberstad to the Historic Review Board for an unexpired term beginning on June 30th, 2017.
Second. Sorry.
Any discussion on this? All in favor? 7 in favor. Okay. Okay.
Human Rights Commission. I move to appoint Ibrahim Koulibaly to the Human Rights Commission for a 3-year term beginning July 1, 2017 and ending June 30th, 2020.
Second, Mayor.
And you want to discuss?
Because we don't have much discussion about these amongst one another, all we do is do the reading. Well, there's a little bit of reading this time, and as well as the interviews with all the candidates to know these folks. but with 150 some applications and enough time for a few interviews, there were a number of people who didn't get interviewed, who one in particular in this place. There was one of the candidates who apparently from how they looked on paper didn't rise to the interview process that I believe would make an outstanding member of the Human Rights Commission that I've known for a long time. And I can see, based on the preliminary voting pattern that the council did, how this is likely to go. And so I guess what I'll say is that if any of my colleagues are less than 100% certain on how they'll vote on these three candidates, I'd ask them to just say so, and I'll make a pitch for this person I believe should be serving on the Human Rights Commission. If not, I'll let it pass, knowing how the body will tend to act in this case.
Councillor Semple?
I'd be interested in hearing.
Councillor Surratt?
I have no objection to Councillor Clark speaking to this candidate, but I just want to note, I mean, we had a truly impressive roster of people who applied to be on our boards and commissions, and I think even particularly the Human Rights Commission. I found it very difficult to choose among the candidates, and I would say if this particular candidate, doesn't prevail, there will be more openings next year, and I would say that to everyone who applied for any of the boards and commissions who was very interested in. So I wouldn't want anyone to think that they were being slighted because they were not appointed to a board or commission by this body. I think it was just an overwhelming showing of community involvement that and we have some excellent folks out there who want to be involved in our city. So I just want to acknowledge that.
Any other comments on this? Okay, Councillor Clark, do you have?
Yeah, I will name the person in that case because it's on our lists too. Susan Thielen is the person who works at the University of Oregon and who I've known for 30-some years. Her and her partner have been very active in several human rights related issues over time. And she's a leader at the university and an incredibly bright person. And would imagine that she would help us to accomplish many things on the Human Rights Commission. So if anyone, I guess I would say I may offer her as a substitute motion on one of these just to see how it goes. Please note for the people who are whose names may appear where I offer a substitute, it's only that I'm trying to find the right place to get this person to be able to serve and not a reflection on them. So.
Okay, so the name on deck right now is Ibrahim Coulibaly. So we are ready to vote on Ibrahim Coulibaly. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so Ibrahim Coulibaly is on. All right.
I move to appoint Ibrahim Hamidi to the Human Rights Commission for a 3-year term beginning July 1, 2017 and ending June 30th, 2020.
Second.
Any discussion on this? All in favor of Ibrahim Hamidi? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, he's on.
I move to appoint Ella Kubak to the Human Rights Commission for a 3-year term beginning July 1, 2017 and ending on June 30th, 2020.
Second.
Okay, discussion? All right, all in favor of Ella Kubak? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so she's on as well. All right.
Moving on to the Planning Commission. I move to reappoint John Borofsky to the Planning Commission for a 4-year term beginning July 1, 2017 and ending on June 30th, 2021.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay.
I move to appoint Ken Beeson to the Planning Commission for a 4-year term beginning July 1, 2017 and ending on June 30th, 2021.
Second.
Mayor, I'd like to substitute.
Oh, okay, I'm going to let Greg go and then you.
Okay.
Mike, okay.
I'd like to substitute Elliot Becker for this position, and I'll speak to it if I get a second.
You moved Elliot Becker.
No, we moved Ken Beeson.
Sorry, my mistake. Second.
Okay, discussion?
Elliott is one of the few, and I think, based on our votes, that we had a 3-3 tie with Councilor Taylor voting for another candidate. But Elliott is one of the few people from Ward 6 that has come forward for the Budget Committee, and I know that people in my ward would really appreciate the council appointing someone with Elliott's background and experience to the Budget Committee. To the Planning Commission. I'm sorry, I'm one behind you there. It's really important for geographic diversity in our community, and I think that, while I know Ken very well, have served with him, he's been on the Budget Committee, he's been on, the Human Services Commission, he's served in a number of different positions already, and I think that he will be back and he will continue to participate in city affairs, but I think that we need to have new, fresh faces on our boards and commissions, and particularly our Planning Commission.
Okay. Councilor Clark, you have a comment?
Yes, ma'am. I'll support this because predominant quantity of growth, especially when the recommendation is for UGB growth in the general Ward 6 area, and a lot of the growth that we're seeing in our community happening, generally speaking, northwardly and westwardly. I think it makes sense to have a Ward 6 person on the Planning Commission, so I'll support this.
Councilor Surratt?
Yeah, thank you. I also voted to appoint Elliott Becker, although I very much appreciate Ken Beeson's service and have enjoyed serving with him on the Budget Committee and the Human Services Commission. I felt that there were some things in Elliott's background, particularly coming from San Diego, California, where growth, I'm sure, has just been crazy, and also speaking to his perspective as a consumer advocate, I felt those combination of talent and background and experience made him a slightly better candidate in my mind, in spite of Ken's great service, and I hope Ken would reapply next year if he does not get the appointment. So I will be supporting the substitute motion.
Any other comments? Okay, we are now voting on the substitution Elliott Becker. All in favor? 1, 2, 3. 4. Okay, and opposed? 1, 2, 3. So Elliott Becker takes it.
We have to point
All you did so far was to substitute.
We've agreed on the substitution, so now we have to actually vote
on the main motion.
On the appointment. Okay, yes. So all in favor of the appointment of Elliott Becker? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed? 2. So Elliott Becker wins that appointment. Okay. Okay. It is like a game show. It is.
Sustainability Commission. I move to reappoint Howard Saxon to the Sustainability Commission for a 4-year term beginning July 1, 2017 and ending June 30th, 2021.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of Howard Saxon? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's got it. Okay.
I move to reappoint Zach Mulholland to the Sustainability Commission for a 4-year term beginning July 1, 2017 and ending in June 30th, 2021.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of Zach Mulholland? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, great.
Last one. So we have 3 candidates. Oh.
No, we're on.
Still on
oh, wait, so we're still on sustainability. We have one more for sustainability, right?
I move to appoint Doug Edwards to the Sustainability Commission for a 4-year term beginning July 1, 2017 and ending June 30th, 2021.
Second.
Any discussion? All, Emily, Councilor Semple?
To substitute Kelsey Zlevor.
Kelsey Zlevor, okay.
Already.
Oh, she already, never mind. Never mind.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, she's the next one. She's coming next. Okay, so we're back to Doug Edwards. We have a second. Ready? Any other discussion? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. All right, now.
I move to appoint Kelsey Zlevor to the Sustainability Commission for a 4-year term beginning July 1, 2017 and ending June 30th, 2021. Easy
Second.
for her to say.
Any discussion on this?
Just it again.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, great.
Moving on to the Toxics Board. I move to reappoint Mark Kruger to position 10, an industry representative on the Toxic Board for a 3-year term beginning July 1, 2017 and ending June 30th, 2020.
Second.
Any discussion on this?
No, it's not position. It's the industry representative. Industry representative position.
Gotcha.
Position X.
Position X, right. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay.
I move to reappoint Andrea Phelps as an industry representative on the Toxic Board for a 3-year term beginning July 1, 2017 and ending June 30th, 2020.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay.
I move to appoint Crystal Abrams to the Toxic Board for a 3-year term beginning July 1, 2017 and ending June 30th, 2020.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Okay.
Moving on to the Willamette Natural Area Citizen Planning Committee, I move to reappoint Vicki Mello to the Willamette Natural Area Citizen Planning Committee for a 3-year term beginning July 1, 2017 and ending June 30th, 2020.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right.
And last but not least, I move to appoint Aaron Quinn to the Willamette Natural Area Citizen Planning Committee for a 3-year term beginning July 1, 2017 and ending June 30th, 2020.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes. All right. Congratulations to all of those appointees. That's great. Well done. Okay, our next order of business, charter requirements for election to fill council vacancy.
Mayor and Council, a couple of weeks ago, I sent you an email related to this. This concerns the appointment of someone to replace Councilor Poling because because he resigned in the 3rd year of his term, but an election couldn't occur until the 4th year of the term. It creates the possibility that somebody would run next May, have a runoff election next November, and then never get to actually serve because the new 4-year term would start at the same time. You had a work session back in April where you gave direction to come back to you with a resolution that would provide one way of dealing with this, which is basically to say that the council doesn't believe this is what the voters intended, and your intention would be to not hold an election in next May, provided that a court, as part of a validation proceeding, would agree. Attachment A to your AIS is that resolution. The email that I sent you a couple weeks ago presented a different option that we actually think is a better option, which is to ask the voters what they intended. So attachment B to your AIS is a resolution that calls an election to actually clarify the charter to say if an election would not occur until the 4th year, there would be no election, that the person that is appointed by the council during the 3rd year would simply serve out the balance of the term. The primary reason for that recommendation is our concern that a court would conclude, just like it did with the butterfly lot judicial validation, that it's premature. And the reason a court might conclude that is because the only way there would be a problem is if in May of next year there were at least 3 people who ran and at least 2 of them would wind up in a runoff election. What a judge might say if we filed that judicial validation this year is there's a possibility that only 1 person or 2 people would actually file next May, in which case there would never be a runoff election, or 3 people or more would file, but 1 person would get a majority, in which case there would be no runoff election, and so whoever got elected in May would actually begin to serve in July. So if you adopted attachment A, it's possible we wouldn't get the validation that we are hoping for from the court, and we'd still have the same problem. By referring something to the voters this November, the voters can say, yes, our intention was never to have an election during the 4th year, and so we clarify it once and for all. So you have those two choices. You have a choice to do nothing, in which case there would be an election next May, and a fourth option, which is you need more time to think about it. You can call that election if you want for a November charter amendment through the summer. The reason why we're bringing it to you now is in case you want to deal with it before you actually have your conversation about who to appoint for the counselor polling spot. You can do that and make a decision now before you start having the conversations about specific individuals. But you do not need to act tonight if you're not ready to act tonight.
Okay. I'm forming a queue. Betty? Councilor Taylor, sorry. Go for it.
I prefer to wait. That's all.
Any other comments? Councilor Pryor?
I'm okay to wait, but I'll indicate that if you feel the better solution is a charter amendment because it would provide greater clarity and it would not run the risk of a court saying, no, we don't have anything here to do, and we still wouldn't have an answer. I'm looking to avoid having two separate elections for the same seat in next year. And if a charter amendment's a way to do that, then I'm certainly supportive of doing that. I guess the question I would have is what additional discussion needs to take place? I mean, if people are uncomfortable, that's fine. I just want to know what the source of the discomfort would be, why we couldn't go ahead and indicate that we would prefer to move forward with a charter amendment resolution.
Councilor Clark?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm unclear. The particular copy of the agenda that I'm looking at calls on the City Council President to make a motion for us to call for an election. Is that the intended motion that's forthcoming here in a moment? Okay. In that case, I'll wait.
Okay. Councilor Zelenka?
Yeah, there's only certain options that we have here. It is unclear what's been written in our charter for the last 15 years, and nobody on this council, I don't believe, was on this council was on the council then. No, I guess Betty was. And I'm not sure what other information would come to light. I wanted to avoid the complication of having an election for a person that would never take office. That would be super confusing to the folks in the voting booth or at our kitchen table putting their ballots together. And I had the same thought about the butterfly lot with this, is that the judge could just turn around and say, nothing's happened, so there's nothing for me to decide, and not help us clarify this. And this seems much more definitive in terms of asking the electorate for a housekeeping measure that says that cleans this language up. And I'm assuming would there be any additional cost in the November election to add this to the ballot?
I would want to check with Beth to make sure. There might be a marginal additional cost, because sometimes what the county does for the elections that aren't primary or general elections is to allocate the cost based on the number of measures that a government has on the ballot. So I'd need to double check with Beth to let you know for sure. I'm not sure about this November's election, whether that would be true or not. But that would be a piece of information we could come back to you with.
Yeah, I'd like to know that piece of information, actually.
Councilor Semple?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to point out that elections are very time-consuming and expensive for the candidates, and it would be a shame for the money and time to have to be spent on something that went nowhere. I would support option B. I think it's the clearest and would solve the problem forever.
Right.
Yeah. Unless they voted no.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments? Oh, yes, Councilor Clark.
I'll support the motion that's here. I should have said at the end, because the people are the ultimate authority on what their charter says in the first place. And I say we ask them if it's unclear, and there's no smarter, better, more just way to fix an unclear direction from the city, from the excuse me, from the members of the city. So,
Councilor Surratt?
Yeah, thank you. I would also support the better option as recommended by our half-time city attorney now.
Still full-time.
Okay.
At least a little longer.
Okay. Yeah, I agree that I think sending this out to the voters is the right thing. I agree with Councilor Semple that the idea of setting some folks up to run in an election that doesn't bear any fruit would be just ridiculous. There might be a cost associated to it. I think that's just the practicality of trying to clean up unclear charter provisions. So I would support us having this motion move forward tonight.
Okay, so are we ready to actually put this motion on the table?
I move to adopt a resolution calling an election in November 2017 to consider a charter amendment.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Mayor, if I can just make it clear for the record that that would be attachment B to your AIS.
Right.
Attachment B to the AIS, correct.
Right. Okay. Attachment B, AIS. All right. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Great.
Unanimity.
I would like to get the cost of that.
Yeah, we'll get that for you.
Okay. All right. Now, I, at the request and the reminder of Councilor Zelenka, am adding one more little piece to our agenda, which has to do with the discussion about the annual review of the police auditor. And do you want to just take that one away? And
sure. As you know, the city manager process for doing evaluations is that we do a lengthy process in 1 year, and then in the other year we do a shorter process. And so, and the police auditor's request, we follow that same pattern for him as well. That would be the shorter process this year. So we went through the lengthy process last year. So council officers, which is Councilor Clark and I, as the president and vice president of the council, meet with him on a regular basis, and he made this request of us, and we both thought it was a good idea. And so we're asking for consent of the council. Head nods would be fine, I suspect. Unless someone objects, we would go forward with that.
any questions, concerns? Okay, so can we have head nods? Everyone's okay with that process? I think we're good. Thank you very much for getting that on the agenda. And now we actually have time for committee reports and items of interest. So we have a list of committees. We can work our way through that, or we can go down the row. Anybody have something urgent they want to share? Councilor Evans, Councilor Taylor?
Yeah, last week, Mayor, last Monday, actually, you and I were both in Salem to, meet with our legislative delegation about the transportation package and our support for that, and a few items that we needed tweaked in that package. But then later on, I stayed over and I testified on behalf of the executive committee of the League of Oregon Cities in support of the transportation package. As we all know, that's just one of the few things that is getting support from the governor's office, and the governor was there to testify as well later on that evening in support of the package. So we're hoping that we can improve and repair and replace at least some of our infrastructure here in the state of Oregon as we move on. And so that's my report.
All right. Councilor Taylor?
Thank you. First, I want to say that I'm disappointed that this is the last thing on the agenda. Usually people don't care anymore by the end of our meeting. But since it's here, I have some things to say. I hope that we'll go back to having it at the beginning of the 5:30 meeting. One thing, the mayor and Councilor Semple and I were at a meeting with the Korean delegation recently, and there is going to be a trip to Korea and starting September 29th, and I think it would be very good if some of us would go. I think the sister city relationships are extremely important, and it's our little contribution to world peace probably, and I think it brings benefit to the whole community. So I hope that people will think about going on that trip starting September 29th, and I think we'd have to plan ahead. Another thing, the Lane Regional Air Protection Agency has a board vacancy. This is the mayor's appointment, but if people are listening and are interested, they might want to talk to the mayor about that. It's a vacancy right now, so it's immediate. I would like a list of the changes to the budget that the manager made based on the recommendations of the budget committee. As the budget committee is advisory, not a deciding body, and I would like us to have a list of those in case we want to make motions to change them. Because
right, so what you'll get is a list of the recommendations that the budget committee passed, and that's what you'll receive.
Okay, they're the things that would change the budget that you had presented. That's what I want.
Yes.
Okay. Good. And then I want to bring to your attention an article in the Weekly by Bob Warren, whom you probably all know about, called, the title is Bottom Feeders. And it's very interesting. It's about the kinds of incentives we give. And this man he worked for the state. He was in charge of economic development for 3 counties, Lincoln, Lynn, and Benton counties, and also an advisor to state and national people. And he talks about doing the foolish things we do sometimes. I just want to point out a few things. He says, sometimes we recruit people without any talk about quality of life or community commitments, just cheap land, low-cost housing, low-cost labor, and could be low-cost anywhere USA. And his last paragraph, if that doing local business is the best thing, this is how we should be doing business recruitment, not by recruiting things that add to our quality of life and local people too, not by bringing about cheap land and low-cost labor, not by bragging about cheap land and low-cost labor while offering up huge tax breaks to out-of-state corporations that can and would locate in any town USA. And it's an excellent article by someone who really knows what he's talking about and has been involved in economic development. This is the Weekly that's still available. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Zelenka.
Yeah, interesting development today that occurred. Many of you may know that there are 21 young people, most of them from Eugene actually, have brought suit against the federal government and sued the Obama administration, alleging that the federal agencies have known about burning fossil fuels for 5 decades would disrupt the climate system and harm future generations, and they're brought a suit against the Obama administration over the government's alleged role in causing and enhancing that danger of climate change. It went to the local district court and was allowed to move forward. And the Trump administration has asked today that the Ninth Circuit Court dismiss that lawsuit and circumvent the local district Judge Aiken's ruling on that. And so I guess we'll find out in a couple of weeks whether or not they agree.
Councilor Surratt.
I don't have my own item of interest, but I wanted to add to what Councilor Taylor mentioned about the Lane Regional Air Pollution Authority Board vacancy, particularly for folks who may have applied to our Sustainability Commission or the Planning Commission or any of the other wonderful commissions that folks applied to. This is a similar opportunity. It's a regional body, so it's not strictly City of Eugene, but City of Eugene is represented there, and it's a great way to get involved in a similar way as the City of Eugene boards and commissions. So I hope there's some folks still listening to us this evening who might consider that as an alternative opportunity to serve one's community and give back.
Councilor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I know most people probably saw this in the newspaper, but I wanted to take just a moment at this time to mourn and to express my sadness this last Tuesday, Wednesday, and for the the loss of the executive director of the local chamber of commerce who passed, Dave Hauser. I want to wish his family, his wife and his kids and extended family my condolences and ours, I'm sure, for the passing of a man who added so much to our community for so long. And I know how many times I've looked out in the audience at a council meeting late at night after he's worked full day, making sure we understood the implications from all local business person's point of view of what we may or may not do at this table. And he will be very badly missed, and my heart goes out to his family, and I just wanted to make note of that. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And Councilor Pryor? Oh, and Councilor Semple. Pryor and then Semple.
Yes, I just wanted to quickly mention that the Housing Policy Board met, and as you know, that is a group that's has now split and is no longer directly managing the distribution of HUD and CDBG funds, but is in the process of establishing what should be some of the housing-related growth policies and ideas for the county and the city. And they have set up 5 independent work groups or task forces to talk about issues such as the relationship between education and health and housing, low cost and affordable housing options, ways in which we can participate in those, alternative housing types and how to spread not only just through the missing middle, but through a variety of different ways of creating housing options. And they're studying those issues very carefully, and they're going to bring that back to the Housing Policy Board, which will then translate those into recommendations for us on the council. And so their level of study, I think, is very helpful for us in terms of the depth that they look at all of these different issues, both in terms of how the city can assist housing, but also how the marketplace can work to try to make housing more affordable and more available. Which led to, I was asked to interview with a kind of a roving documentary group that's doing I don't know whether it's a film or a TV show, I think it's a TV show about tiny houses and making them legal all across the country. And they have visited a number of different cities across the United States and looked at tiny housing opportunities in places. And they were directed here because of the work we've been doing to build not only an affordable tiny housing opportunity, but also to make it legal. And how that is kind of unusual and revolutionary in the country, is trying to figure out ways to incorporate and accommodate tiny housing as one of the available housing options. And as you know, for a long time, tiny housing was illegal, but that didn't stop it being built. And so figuring out a way to make this housing option a legal and affordable methodology within cities is something that was very attractive to them, and I think puts us at the forefront. And Emerald Village is something that was particularly exciting to them because it is a model showpiece of not only architectural styles, but also cooperative living arrangements that tiny houses can provide. And it's really something that you don't see anywhere else in the country. So that's what drew them here, and I think that we put our best foot forward on that.
Councilor Semple?
Thank you. All of you people that didn't get on the Sustainability Commission, here's your chance. Apply for LRAPA. I'm the liaison to the Mackenzie Watershed Council, and I've been going to their meetings. It's really an incredible council because it brings together between 20 and 30 different organizations who are all working to keep the Mackenzie Watershed in great shape and make it better. And that's where all our water comes from, so it's vitally important, as well as a lot of recreation and a real lot of fish, or not so many fish. So they're working really hard to improve fish habitat, and the majority of what I see there is a lot of education, especially for the students in the Mackenzie watershed. Last week we had some reports from high school students, and they did a great job. So I'm glad that the city supports the Mackenzie Watershed Council. I think they're doing a really good job, and the way they work together is a model for all of us. Thank you.
Councilor Zelenka, did you want to?
Yeah, I wanted to add something I forgot that Chris reminded me that the mayor and I were actually on Saturday. We were at the 3rd year anniversary of the Opportunity Village Eugene, which doesn't seem like it was 3 years ago, but that Opportunity Village started out as a pilot, and now it's more or less permanent, is just a tremendous success. And in fact, it's such a model that it actually was talked about on Bill Moyer's television show on PBS. I met numerous people there, including Alice, who was one of the people that spoke. Alice has one of the tiny homes, but the tiny homes don't have electricity, heat, or plumbing. The lights in there are on a LED bulb on a battery, and they keep warm various different ways. But Alice found herself out of paycheck on Social Security, living in her car with her dog, and finally eventually got into Opportunity Village, and now is getting more stable and moving on. And then also met Ron and Christy, who Ron works half-time in Dan Bryant's church as a janitor, and Christy's going to school and become a social worker to help work with homeless people. And they're both working to get out into more stable, get first and last month's rent, and be able to get into a home together. And I was talking to Dan Bryant, and he said 100 people have gone through Opportunity Village, and 60 of them have moved on to having stable housing, and 40 of them for various reasons, either because they got kicked out for behavior problems or alcohol or drugs or fighting or whatever, are probably back on the street. But 60 out of 100 people, that Opportunity Village gave them the opportunity to move into stability, is quite a heck of a track record. I'm very proud of it. And then finally, and if you haven't been there, please go request a tour. It's on First and Roosevelt. But there's about 30 people living there in tiny homes and in the Conestoga huts. But they did have a little tiny home moving show there, and I went and talked to there's actually 3 people living in 133 square feet. And it's very compact, extremely efficient, and very cool. And it's on wheels. And their truck sponsor is actually U-Haul. U-Haul doesn't pay for their gas, but they do provide the trucks. So that's how they move it around from place to place, and they're here for the rest of the week. So if you want to go see a really cool tiny home that somebody's been living in and talk to them about what that's like, you can go to Opportunity Village and get that opportunity.
Sir Sample, you have something else?
Yeah, quickly. Opportunity Village has been a great success. I'm really proud of it. It's a great model. I'd like to see more of them. And I'd like to give a really big shout out to Occupy, whose outrage and work starting 5.5 years ago was instrumental in the beginning of Opportunity Village. Thank you.
I think it's a credit to the community that we made that transition from the Occupy movement to the Opportunity movement, and that was great. I have a couple of quick things. There are a couple of things I've done as the mayor. One is to sign on to the Climate Mayor's protest to the letter to Trump, protesting pulling out of the Paris agreements. I also sent an endorsement letter today, or support letter, to House Bill 2004, which was the renter protection bill. It got divided in half. Our IGR committee, we didn't support it, but it got divided in half. There wasn't a lot of time to bring it back to council, so I just, as mayor, supported the push for renter protections from no-cause evictions. I just want to note that today is the 50th anniversary of the Loving couple, biracial. They sent me a tattoo. I meant to wear it today, and I forgot. But I think, we should honor how much our society has changed for the better, and what a great thing that is. And I had one more, but I guess climate recovery ordinance, that climate recovery task force met this week, so they seem to be moving along. Lots of work. Betty, thank you for keeping this on target, that we should have this conversation about the committees, because it's clear that people are pretty excited about the committees they're serving on. So thank you. I believe we are done. Thank you all, and good night.